2020, we got married about 3.5 years ago. And prior to getting married, tithes was a conversation that we had because I watched my parents tithe faithfully growing up, kind of through good and bad times, and it was instilled in me.
To say the least, growing up, I didn't really have any concept of what that is, why we should do it, or anything like that. And it was really through conversations with Maddie that I realized how important that is. And so we decided that that would be a fundamental part of our marriage once we got married.
Getting married at a super young age, I was 18, he was 20. That kind of comes with financial struggles all on its own. But we've actually seen a lot of amazing blessings through being super faithful in our tithe and giving.
In March of this year, Pastor Doug kind of brought to the church his idea for the pledge challenge for this year, and we kind of felt called in a way and convicted that that's something that we should participate in.
We both kind of felt a number laid on our hearts from God that was a lot bigger than what we were hoping for, and so we kind of were like trying to nudge that down a little bit because that just felt like something that the world would probably say was not a smart financial decision to give that amount.
We finally did come to the conclusion that that is just something that God has for us right now, and we should probably just trust Him and go forward with that number. And so I decided to finally pledge the number that we felt called to. We went to bed kind of nervous about the amount that we had pledged to, but also determined and kind of felt safe in God's promise that He'll take care of us, and this is obviously something He has for our life. The next morning, we unfortunately received some really unexpected news that my uncle had suddenly passed away. There was just a lot of heartbreak and trouble that came along with that. But later that same day, we also found out that he had passed away without a will, and that me and my sister were his only two surviving relatives. After processing the original grief, we immediately started talking to lawyers, figuring out what exactly this process looks like with him passing away without a will. Through all of that whole process, it was a very big financial burden on us through hiring lawyers, paying for court fees, paying for another mortgage on top of what we're already paying, all of the bills associated. So it really became very strapping financially and a really big burden on us, and where we were just trying to figure out how we can make it through this process and get to the end, let alone be able to give that pledge amount that we had.
We were finally in a spot where we were able to list his house for sale, which was also super just crazy for us to figure out, listing a house in another state. We hadn't had really any showings at all, like no interest.
We kind of thought that we really want to try to dig deep and trust God in this process and see what He has in store for us. So we decided that we wanted to stay faithful to that pledge we'd made and finally kind of seal that and really lean on God. And then just suddenly that very same day after we had decided to give that pledge, we got a really reasonable offer on the house that we were excited to accept. God is always faithful, and if you're going through a situation where maybe it might seem like that's not how it's going to play out, you always want to try and remind yourself of what God has done for you. It might not look exactly how I want it to look. The timing might be not how I want the timing to be, but God is always faithful, and He will come through in the end. And that was something that drove us kind of through this whole process, let us give faithfully when the pledge challenge resumed, give faithfully throughout the entire process, to always know that God will make it right. He will turn it out for good at the end. My name is Kyle Grooms.
And my name is Maddie Grooms.
And this is our story.